The morning they took my company, the badge reader at the front door beeped red. Not green. Red. I stood there in the lobby I had paid for, holding 2 coffees, and watched my own keycard turn me into a stranger. Upstairs, a meeting was already happening. A meeting about me, without me. My name is Adrian. The man who locked me out was my best friend of 15 years. His name is Marcus. And this is the story of how I let him take everything I had built, smiled while he did it, and waited 11 months for him to realize that he had stolen a car with no engine. Marcus and I started the company in a rented garage when we were 24. The idea was mine. The code was mine, every line of it written at 3 a.m. while the world slept. But Marcus could do the one thing I never could. He could walk into a room full of investors and make them believe. I built the engine, he sold the car. For 9 years, it worked. We grew to 40 people. We had real customers, real revenue, a name people in the industry actually knew. I thought we were untouchable. I thought partners meant forever. The trouble started the year we raised our big round. A venture firm came in with a check large enough to change our lives, and a managing partner named Mr. Vance, who smiled the way a closed door smiles. He liked Marcus. He liked Marcus a great deal. He found me, the quiet one, the one who talked about architecture instead of growth, harder to love. I should have paid attention to the way the 3 of them started having dinners I only heard about afterward. But I was busy. I was always busy. I was in the code. Here's the thing about me that everyone, including Marcus, had stopped noticing. I keep records, obsessively. Every decision we ever made, I wrote down. Every architecture choice, every contract, every promise, logged, dated, and backed up. My father was an accountant, and the only thing he ever drilled into me was this. Everything leaves a log, son. People rewrite the story. Logs don't. I thought it was just how I stayed organized. I had no idea it was the only reason I would survive what came next. They came for me at a board meeting in March. Vance spoke first, in that warm syrup voice money gives people. The company needed a cleaner leadership story for the next raise. 2 founders confused investors. One had to step back. And wouldn't it be better, he said, for me to step into a technical advisor role, no board seat, no operational control, so I could focus on what I loved? Marcus didn't look at me the entire time. He just slid a folder across the table and said softly, "It's what's best, Adrian, for all of us." The vote was 3-1. I was the one, so I signed. I signed away my board seat. I signed away my operational title. I shook Vance's hand, and I hugged Marcus at the door, and I told him I understood. I told him I wanted the company to win more than I wanted to be right. Marcus actually teared up. He said, "I knew you'd get it. You were always the bigger man." I smiled and said nothing, because there was one document they never put in front of me, and one signature they forgot they needed. When Marcus and I incorporated the company in that garage, we were broke and we were careless about everything, except one thing I insisted on. The core technology, the engine that everything else ran on, I had patented in my own name first, then licensed to the company. Not sold. Licensed. It was a boring legal detail nobody cared about for 9 years. The license had a clause, on page 11, that I had written myself at 24, and that no one had read since. The license to the company's core engine terminated automatically if I was removed from the board against my will. They had just removed me from the board, against my will, on video. With a vote they were very proud of. I had 11 months before our biggest enterprise contract came up for renewal, the one that paid for half the company. 11 months before they would need to re-sign the licensing terms. 11 months before the engine they thought they owned would quietly, legally stop being theirs. I didn't say a word. I went home. I waited, and I kept logging. For the next 11 months, I was the best loser you have ever seen. I took the advisor title. I answered technical questions when they emailed me, politely, billing every hour. I sent Marcus a congratulations card when the press announced him as sole CEO. I watched from the outside as Vance pushed the company to grow faster, hire faster, burn faster. I watched Marcus move into the corner office that used to be a closet we shared. And every month, like clockwork, I exported the company's public filings, their press releases, their job postings, and I saved them, dated, to a folder. Everything leaves a log. I was building the receipts for a story that hadn't finished yet. What they didn't know was that 3 different competitors had quietly reached out to me that year. They had all heard the same rumor, that the famously brilliant engine at the heart of the company was, technically, the property of a man who no longer worked there. I told each of them the same thing. Talk to me in the spring. Spring came. The enterprise contract renewal landed on Marcus's desk, and with it, the licensing terms that needed my signature to continue. That same morning, a letter from my attorney arrived at the company's front desk. It was very short and very polite. It informed the board that, per Section 11 of the original licensing agreement, a copy enclosed with the relevant clause highlighted, the license to the company's core technology had terminated automatically 11 months ago, on the date of my involuntary removal. The company had, technically, been operating its entire product without a valid license since the day they voted me out. The letter offered a path forward. It was not a cheap one. I'm told the room went very quiet and then very loud. I'm told Vance asked Marcus a question Marcus could not answer. You told me he signed everything. And Marcus had to explain that yes, I had signed everything they gave me. They had simply never thought to give me the one thing that mattered. They had been so busy taking the company that they forgot to check who owned the keys. I came back into that building 11 months after they locked me out. Same lobby. Same badge reader. This time, the light turned green. We sat in the room they had voted me out of, and this time there was only one empty chair, and it was the one at the head of the table where Marcus used to sit. My terms were simple. I would relicense the engine to the company at a price that reflected what it was actually worth, plus a controlling equity stake returned to me, plus the immediate removal of Mr. Vance from any operational role. Or I would license it to one of their 3 largest competitors who were waiting for my call, and the company would have 90 days to rebuild from nothing, a technology that had taken me 9 years to write. Vance tried to threaten litigation. My attorney slid a second folder across the table. The logs. Every dated filing, every board minute, the video of the vote, the original signed license from the garage. Everything leaves a log. Vance stopped talking. The deal closed in a week. People think revenge is loud. They think it looks like shouting or ruin or someone dragged out by security. Mine was quieter than that. I never raised my voice. I never broke a law. I simply let the people who underestimated me build their entire kingdom on a foundation I still owned, and then I waited for the day they would need the one thing they had thrown away. Vance was gone within the month. The company survived, barely, because, in the end, I did relicense the engine. I'm not a cruel man. I just don't forget. Marcus asked to meet me once, after it was all over. He looked smaller than I remembered. He said he was sorry, and I believed that he believed it. He asked me how I had known all those years ago to write that clause. I told him the truth. I told him that the day you go into business with someone, you should hope you'll never need the receipts, and keep them anyway, because people rewrite the story. Logs don't. My name is Adrian. I built the engine, and I never stopped holding the keys. If this story was worth your time, there's a new one every single day, because everyone keeps their secrets, but everything leaves a tape.